Things are hotting up. Chapter 8. I think we ought to just get straight into it with no rambling, because it's getting a bit intense. Right. So where were we before? Okay. Rachel and Robin are heading across the meadow on the side of the creek. They've got to find his father and her sister, who she never knew existed. Wow. After a short while of walking, Rachel noticed the suns were going down faster. Shadows were being cast by small hills and one of these rocky outcrops seemed to have a faint green glow about it. There, she said, let's head that way. We've got to find somewhere to hide during the night. Robin was, as usual, being churlish. Look, I don't want to bring the party down or anything, but when are we going back? I've got a football match tomorrow, and as the striker, it's very bloody important that I turn up. I know you're enjoying yourself in this weird place, but really, I've had enough. I just want to go home now. Can't we just press the jewels and go home? I need a rest, and I'm hungry. Rachel was utterly outraged, not just by his impatience, but also by his utter selfishness and his entire lack of understanding of their situation. She turned on Robin with clenched fists. That's it, Robin McCracker, that's it. We'll just press the jewels and go home and leave my sister and your father here for another 8 years, shall we? Your father that you haven't seen for 8 years, and you would prefer to go and play a football match rather than to rescue him from this place. You're the most selfish, spoiled, thick, little... Robin put his hand up to her. Rachel, turn around. The tone of his voice told her that something was very wrong. She stared at him for a moment, then turned, wondering what had made Robin turn white. In the far distance, there was what looked like a cloud, a black, ominous cloud. But it wasn't a cloud because no cloud travelled that fast. There was no wind, and this not cloud was headed straight for them. They both had the same thought, as each other. Dragons. Run! They told each other in unison. Rachel began to run for the green glowing rocks. As she ran, she calculated the approximate speed of the cloud and the distance to the rocks, but was unsure if they would make it in time. She quickly looked over her shoulder to make sure that Robin was keeping up, but Robin was overtaking her. Fear, it seemed, had given him extra legs because he was fast. Really fast. Rachel had won every school running race in her year for her whole life, and for as long as she could remember, but this boy was running like he had wings on his feet. Weirdly, she noticed, he was running quite gracefully too. It was more like a gallop than a run. The cloud was getting closer, and it became obvious to her that she wasn't going to make it. Then Robin did something very un-Robin-like. Even though he was way ahead of her and heading to the safety of the rocks, he stopped dead, turned round, looked at Rachel, and ran back to her. As it seemed that he was about to pass her going the other way, he stuck his arm out, grabbed Rachel round the waist, scooped her up, lifting her off the ground. He turned again and ran straight towards the rocks with her in his arms. She was too stunned and confused to even think straight, and within less than a minute, he had dropped her down by what seemed to be a large cave entrance within the rocks themselves. The cloud passed over them just as they became hidden by the rocks. The cloud was 5 black dragons. As they passed overhead, Rachel saw them properly for the first time. They were sleek, and their scales glinted in the evening light. They didn't seem to have seen the pair hiding in the rocks. Robin whooped with delight. Wow, I can run! I've never run like that before. Did you see that? I was amazing. Rachel turned to him, surprised by his outburst. Shut up, you idiot. They'll hear you. Robin ignored her. And I'm strong, really strong. When I picked you up, it was like lifting a feather. Wow! Rachel couldn't believe how stupid he was being. She looked to see if the dragons had heard him. They had. They were wheeling in the sky and heading straight for them, and the cave. "Look what you've done, you idiot! They're coming back!" Well, Robin looked at the sky. Oops. Rachel weighed up their options. They could try to outrun the dragons, but even with Robin's newfound strength and speed, the dragons would catch them within minutes. Or the cave, with God knows what lurking in there. No choice. The cave it had to be. Fling had said they could go through the caves, so if this was one of the caves he was talking about, then there had to be another way out. "Come on, we've got to go. Now." Robin looked at her aghast. "In there? You're kidding. It's dark." And he sniffed the air. "And it smells weird." Rachel just pointed at the dragons that were nearly upon them. "Stay here and play with them then." And with that, she turned and walked into the cave, which was indeed dark. Robin followed her with his head turned, watching the dragons getting closer and closer. He looked at the size of the cave entrance and wondered if a dragon could fit through. Rachel's eyes, though, began to adjust to the dark. She could see that they were in a tunnel. She could see quite well, actually, almost like it was daylight. It was quite a big cave, maybe even big enough for a dragon to get in. They heard an almighty angry screeching behind them and could just make out the dragons at the entrance. "They'll be here in a minute," she thought. But the dragons didn't enter. Instead, they screamed and stamped their fury at the entrance. Rachel waited a few seconds, then whispered to Robin, "I think we're okay. They're not coming in." Robin also looked round and noticed that actually he could see in the dark quite well. "Hey, Rach, I can see in the dark." Rachel was curt in her response. "Really? How wonderful for you. I can too for some reason. It must be something to do with the breath of the unicorn. And don't call me Rach. My friends call me that." Robin smarted at this rebuff. "Rubbish. I'm just naturally gifted." "Rach. The unicorn has nothing to do with it." Rachel felt that she needed to punch Robin again, but resisted. "The only thing that you are natural at is being an idiot and a liability." Robin was visibly hurt. "I am not a liability." "What's a liability?" And then he fell backwards over a rock, landing in a heap on the floor. Rachel rolled her eyes. She could have screamed with frustration. The rock lifted itself up and scuttled away into the cave. Why? Why did it have to be him, of all people? She really regretted showing him the bucket. He was useless and hopeless at almost everything, even if he was 13. Chapter 9. Another rock lifted itself up on seemingly hundreds of legs and scuttled off rather further deeper into the cave. Several other rocks lifted themselves up and scuttled off after it. Robin watched them in fascination. What the hell are those things? Rachel was in no mood to answer his question. "It doesn't matter. Let's just go." She started walking deeper into the cave tunnel. The floor of the cave was rough and a little rocky in places, and she noticed that someone had cleared a path some time ago, but it looked as if it had not been used for years. The walls had deep score marks in them, and some looked as if they had been made quite recently. Every 40 feet or so, there were small recesses in the cave. Walls that were just big enough for maybe 2 people to stand in. Whatever the effect Brian's green breath had been on Robin, it certainly hadn't stopped him from being an idiot. But it had made him seem to walk faster now. Instead of idling behind her, moaning about things, he'd walked quite far ahead of her. The tunnel curved round to the left, and she began to lose sight of him. She walked along, letting her mind wander, and began thinking about what her sister was like. If she was anything like Robin, Rachel would leave them both here. She hoped Robin's father was nothing like Robin. Robin was now out of sight, but not out of earshot, and Rachel heard him begin to shout, "Yodelay-oo!" The cave echoed back at him. Then he did it again. What is wrong with that boy? She thought. There could be anything down here. She started to run after him to shut him up, but just caught sight of him when the rumbling began. The rumbling became louder and louder. Robin, shut up! We don't know what's down here. Something else other than them was headed this way fast, and it was big. Again, really big. She shouted to Robin, "Hide!" This time, Robin did as he was told and jumped into a recess that was next to him. What's the noise? Rachel didn't have time to answer as she was running to the next recess. She made it and banged against the wall as she leapt in, whatever it was humming a deep tune. It was a child's tune. She'd heard it before, but she couldn't place it. Something about rice balls came to mind. Robin was in a recess on the other side of the cave, but she only caught a glimpse of him as a huge, scaly, flying snake shot through the tunnel. The noise was deafening. The beast was nearly the size of a train. Its spine scored along the cave walls as it turned, and sparks flew. Rachel watched, stunned at the sheer size of the thing as it flew past. She couldn't figure out how it was flying. It had no wings. It was beautiful, though. It was coloured deep red and bronze and gold. Finally, its tail flew past them, and within seconds it was gone. Everything went quiet again. Rachel exhaled, realising that she had been holding her breath. Robin practically fell out of the recess he had been hiding in. Wow! Wow! That was amazing! Rachel had half expected Robin to be crying and demanding to go home, but he didn't seem scared at all. I don't know why, but I think we should follow it. Come on. Both of them set off at a brisk walk. They had only been walking for 10 minutes or so when something small flew through the air and smacked Robin straight in the eye. He yelped. Ah! There was another missile hit him in the arm, and then another. We're under attack again! He wiped his eye, and then there's another missile caught him on the back of the head, and then all went quiet. Rachel looked around but couldn't see anything. She did sort of hear a sniggering coming from somewhere, and it was that same sniggering they had heard in the meadow and that she had heard in her lounge. Robin whirled round. What was that? Another missile hit him in the neck. Look, whatever you are, stop doing that. It's not funny. Rachel looked around and noticed lots of holes in the cave's walls, just big enough for a very small child to climb through, maybe. As she was looking at one hole, a missile shot out and hit Robin again, followed by the same sniggering. It seemed that whatever was firing at him was hiding behind the cave walls and moving from hole to hole. She watched and waited and guessed which hole would be next. Another missile. Robin was becoming really annoyed. Bloody hell! If I get hold of whatever it is it's doing this, I'll kill it! Rachel stood with her back to one of the holes, guessing that the next missile would come from there. She was right. Another missile flew out and hit Robin smack between the eyes, but this time she thrust her hand into the hole and grabbed something bony. She jerked backwards, pulling what appeared to be a small, skinny old man made entirely from leather and feathers out of the hole. Got you, she said. He seemed to be all elbows and knees, with the pointy furry ears, and had a huge grin on his face. He was no bigger than a cat. His hair was sort of feathery. Rachel had to kneel just so that the little man's feet could touch the ground. Give him to me. I'm going to pulverize him. Robin started forward, but Rachel stopped him. Just a minute. Learn to ask questions, Robin. You might learn something about what's going on around you. Rachel kept a firm hold of the little man, despite him smelling very bad and wriggling furiously. Just stand still. I'm not trying to hurt you. The old man went limp and dropped to the floor, with Rachel still holding on to him, and then looked up at her with very sad eyes. This is one of my favourite illustrations of Kobalos. And Rachel. Yeah, and him looking a bit guilty too. Okay. Maylee is an amazing artist. Why were you firing things at Robin? The little man looked up at Robin. Not things. Bat poo. Robin made a sort of gurgling sound at the back of his throat and clenched his fists. Rachel continued, okay, why were you firing bat poo at Robin? The old man laughed. Hey man, he's stupid. All human men stupid. Rachel resisted the temptation to agree. Would you be kind enough to tell me your name, please? The old man smiled at her. You speak nice. I tell you, you're not stupid like man. Name Kobalos. Robin was incensed. Firstly, you little spider, I am not stupid, and secondly, I'm going to rip your head off. Robin lunged forward to grab Kobalos, but the sprite slipped out of Rachel's hand and ran round the back of Robin. With amazing speed, he climbed up onto Robin's back, bit his ear, and pinched his nose, then jumped off Robin's shoulder and onto Rachel and screamed in mockery, Say, Kobalos, scary man, going to kill me. Then he turns serious. Koboloi come before man in other world. Man slow, Koboloi quick, Koboloi clever. And he chuckled loudly. Robin was beside himself with rage and held onto his ear, bending forwards in pain. Rachel was beginning to like Kobalos. Rachel thought quickly about that. There are more of you then? Kobalos grinned. Kobalos have family. Good family. She turned her mind back to their situation. Where does this tunnel go, Kobalos? Kobalos stroked Rachel's hair. Nice hair. Your sister have curly hair. Rachel was suddenly thrown off guard. You know my sister? Kobalos laughed. Kobalos knows Sarah Adventurer. Sarah Adventurer beat Kobalos at touch game. Sarah friend to Kobalos. Rachel asked, will this tunnel take me to Sarah? Kobalos jumped down from Rachel's shoulder, ran around the back of Robin and kicked him in the back of the knee. Robin fell over and grunted in more pain as he hit the floor, and Kobalos jabbed him hard in the ribs. Please make him stop. Kobalos laughed out loud again. Kobalos played touch game with Rachel. Rachel win, Kobalos tell. Rachel thought for a moment whilst Kobalos continued to torture Robin. His groans and ouches echoed through the tunnel. What will happen if I lose, Kobalos? The sprite stopped, grinned again. Kobalos get to keep stupid Robin. As pet. Robin groaned on the floor. Please, no! Please make the evil monkey man go away. Kobalos dug his fingers into Robin's shoulder. Okay, Kobalos, but until the game is over, you must agree to leave Robin Man alone. All right? Robin flipped Robin's ear, causing him to cry out in serious pain once more, but more in utter frustration. Deal, Rachel the Intrepid, said Kobalos, grinning. And there, we'll stop it because we're up to our chapter 10. Fabulous. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the reading tonight. Remember, you can get this on Amazon, and there's a brilliant audio book. This particular one is done by Darren Gooding, and the second one, The Bag, is done by Lee Bedow, and both of them are just brilliant voiceover artists. You'll love listening to them. A lot better, perhaps, than me. But for now, that's all. So here we go down again for the end stream, and I'll catch you later. Bye.